we are back. Mr. Falana, you look at the proposal on the palliative, it does look to me that there are more attention being paid to civil servants. I mean, civil servants, they have just a little population amongst the Nigerian middle class or the lower class in the country. And so more attention is being paid. You look at the $800 million dollar loan that the federal government, under the Buhari government, has already sought. In that loan, Mr. Falana, let me say that $10.74 million of the $23.3 million will be spent on goods, works, non-consulting services, consulting services, operating costs of the National Social Safety Net, coordinating office, and other projects. Out of that, Mr. Falana, the federal government is expected to spend $23.3 million on consultancy fees out of the $800 million loan to be gotten. What is your view on this palliative? If Nigerians are getting palliatives, what are the kind of palliative that will have a direct effect on their lives now? Because they are experiencing the pain now.
So in the first place, the so-called loan should be a grant under the Fiscal Responsibility Act. You cannot take a loan for palliatives. Sections 43 and 44 of the Fiscal Responsibility Act are very clear that loans are meant for capital projects. So you can't take loans for a palliative. Secondly, the National Assembly
Mr. Falana,
have to give an approval to the request for a loan.
Apologies. Yeah. I like us to clear that so that we don't forget. Yeah. So these loans that the World Bank has approved for Nigeria, if it's used for palliative, is it a crime?
No, it's not a loan, but a grant. A loan cannot be used for palliatives under the Fiscal Responsibility Act.
But that is what is being called, Mr. Falana.
The World Bank should be persuaded to appreciate.
That is what the World Bank calls it.
No, it doesn't matter what the federal government calls it. We are not taking a loan. The World Bank knows the provisions of the law. The federal government of Nigeria knows the law, and that you cannot take a loan for palliatives. So to that extent, it was the World Bank that came up with the idea of giving the money. If I never applied for a loan, the World Bank said, you know, let's encourage you to remove fuel subsidy. Therefore, we are giving you a grant of $800 million. Some people are calling it a loan. It is not a loan. You don't give a loan without a request, without an approval by the National Assembly.
So, second, Mr. Falana, just apologies. Apologies, please. Let's clear that. Let's clear that, please, sir. And for a loan, there are repayment plans. So this is the repayment plan as we know it. The repayment plan will be made in installments, with the first payment due on the 15th of January 2027. And the last payment is due on the 15th of July 2051. A grant does not have a repayment plan. If I'm correct, I stand to be corrected. A loan does have a repayment plan. Yes, sir.
We have, my law firm has written to the World Bank to appreciate that you are not giving a loan. And if you insist it's a loan, we are going to challenge it. What they have given is a grant, and we are not going to pay back. You want to encourage the government to remove fuel subsidy for reasons best known to you. So coming back to what should happen, you know, I think the government is saying now that we are saving $10 billion from the removal of fuel subsidy. And that is what the government will have to address. How much of that fund will be deployed with their mark for addressing the challenges faced by Nigerians? And I'm reluctant to say this. For the past 42 years or thereabout, that the government have been increasing, Nigerian governments have been increasing the cost of petroleum products. It was only the Abacha junta that set up the Petroleum Trust Fund to address problems of hospitals, build roads, and the rest of it. Since then, all the gains have been lost in the system through diversion of the fund. So if the government wants to save the bulk of the $10 billion that, was meant for fuel subsidy and deploy that to addressing the problems of the people, there has to be an agency to go out there, people by credible people, to go out there and address the problems confronting our people. And by the way, like you said, we're not dealing with only civil servants or workers. The government of Kwara State and Edo State have already reduced the number of working days from 5 to 3. And I do hope other governments are going to follow suit or devise other means to address the problems confronting our people. Since all the state governments are clapping for the removal of fuel subsidy, the attention should not be on the federal government alone. The state government must intervene decisively. The local government must also bring out their own palliatives to address the pains that have been inflicted on the Nigerian people.
Mr. Falana, when a lot of Nigerians hear palliative, it doesn't look like a good idea. You remember, on one of our platforms, you were popular for saying that they were holding Indomie. Palliatives in this country has not come with as a good idea. You know what happened with palliatives. We know what happened with sharing handouts, 5,000 naira. It hasn't really worked. A lot of economists have said that has not really impacted on the real economy of Nigeria. And these are the questions that we are asking. And if people, Mr. Falana, have said...
Show what I expect.
Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Hello, Sean.
Yeah, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
This time around, we're not talking of 5,000 naira per month. Because we're talking of 133 million people that are extremely poor. And from the devaluation of the currency, about 4 million have been added to that number. So we're talking of about 137 million people that are extremely poor. The $800 million being proposed by the World Bank will go nowhere. And that is why the government will have to take the bulk of the $10 billion being saved to address the problems, the challenges of the removal of fuel. Secondly, we must also look at statutory palliatives, welfare programs already decreed by law for implementation by the government. For instance, you are supposed to have National Health Insurance Scheme for Nigerians. Is that working? You have Pension Reforms Act. Why are people still keen up to collect pension? You have Child's Right Act, Child's Right Law in each of the states. These laws have insisted that every Nigerian child shall be educated from primary to junior secondary school. For me, you have the Housing Act, National Housing Act, that prescribes that 2.5% of the salary of a worker will be deducted and put in a fund so that workers can apply for housing loan. These are statutory palliatives that have to be implemented now.
I like to
do that. The government will have to wake up and appreciate its responsibilities.
I'd like to quickly move to other issues because this issue of subsidy is not the only matter that is begging for attention in our nation at the moment. But there's something that bothers my mind, Mr. Falana, and is one of the issues that you raised earlier. And those who are critically looking at these $800 million, the amount that is going to some consultants and the amount that is going into some hands that Nigerians need to really dig and probe and how to utilize, because this is going to be a burden to the nation. It's not supposed to go into private pockets. But that aside, Mr. Falano, if we say, and government has come out to say, that they know that there are highly placed people who are involved in stealing Nigeria's crude oil, why is it difficult to bring these people to book? Are they too powerful? Are they too big for the over 2 million or 200 million Nigerians? Or what exactly is going on?
Well, Sean, our OPEC quota is 1.8 million barrels of crude oil per day. We are barely producing 1.2 million barrels. So 600,000 barrels are stolen daily. And this is unacceptable. No responsible government can say that oil theft cannot be combated. I'm aware that very soon the oil thieves are going to be exposed. Whereas there are 36 oil terminals, only 20 of them are metered. In 2012, after the protests, the Jonathan administration set up the new Ribadu Committee to investigate the monumental fraud that informed importation of fuel. At the end of the investigation, that panel came up with a report that many of our terminals are not metered. I am aware that we have 36 terminals, only 20 are metered. So the remaining 16 have not been metered, and that is where oil is stolen. So this regime has a task, more so that Mr. Nuhu Ribadu is now the National Security Advisor. He must walk his talk by ensuring that the recommendation submitted to the Jonathan administration is implemented now, because Nigeria is the only oil-producing country. The only oil-producing country. Talking of oil theft, talking of smuggling of petroleum products, talking of inability to fix refineries. And so this must end. And for me, that is the main issue to address. If you are giving 5,000 naira to poor people, 10,000 naira, and you are devaluing the currency through dollarization, you are not going to address the problems. In fact, you are going to maximize poverty and increase inequality in the country. So the government will have to address and put an end to oil theft. It's not oil science to do that. I mean, rocket science. With the appointment, with the employment of a non-state actor like Mr. Government Ompolo, which is to the shame of our security forces. Through that organization, we are now able to produce 1.2 million barrels of crude oil per day instead of 900,000 barrels. And now that the government is being called upon to meter all our terminals, I am very confident, right, that the government can stop oil theft in a matter of weeks.